Alright, this morning I'm going to teach the key of David for any women that want to receive it or that can receive it. Because when the Messiah teaches the key of David, he says, he that is able to receive it, let him receive it. When Paul teaches it, he says, I teach this not by commandment, but with permission. So it's not... because that's the thing, like, you should want this. And I mean, if you're watching this video, you're probably a woman that does want to serve, or you're a tear. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I guess the best way to put it is that if you want to serve God and you're fulfilling the royal law, you should be able to receive this, but it isn't for everyone. And we'll get into the scriptures, and I just thought I would preface it with that. So it's actually, the actual term, the key of David, is found in Revelation 3. And it's the Messiah that has the key of David. But you're going to see that he actually opens and shuts this door for the servants. And he gives the servants the key of David also. But the key of David itself is the idiom for this sexual fast. So I feel like the best way to do this would be to establish the sexual fast, and then you connect it with these, because this is very line upon line upon line. When we're talking about the milk of scripture, like the milk of repentance, Ephesians 2 and Acts 15, that's the milk of repentance. That's how you receive the spirit of truth. And then you can get fed bread. And then this is like filet mignon meat. Deep meat. Like key of David, strong meat. The Beatitudes, what they actually mean, strong meat. So that's why it's not for everyone, you know. But I was going to say, I hope you can receive it. But if it's yours will, you will receive it. You'll be able to hear it. You'll go and study all these scriptures, and then you'll hear it. Because it's for the servants. It's supposed to be a little strength, a little reviving, to let them know that God is with them. It's a blessing. It's just the very fact that God has revealed this to us. It's like, it's crazy, because then even after all, so I've got the meat and potatoes of the key of David, the foundation of the key of David in all these different chapters. But then like the idioms like sanctify and holy and virgins and things like that, they're in so many different places, and it's talking about those who have the key of David. The 144,000 are the ones who possess the key of David. Now, I know like my husband and Andrew and things like that have said before, it's not necessarily that everyone who has the key of David is the 144,000, but the 144,000 will have the key of David. So remember as well, women, the 144,000 are Jacob, the servant. It's God's army. But women are not numbered whenever a congregation or a multitude is numbered. The man is numbered because he's the head, but the women and children are there. So it's not just the men that are a part of this election. Women are involved. It's just the idiom. It's Jacob, my servant, and then you've got like the remnant of Joseph. So we're looking for Joseph, but within Joseph, there's women as well. It's just that like things like women don't go to war. It's the 144,000 that go to war. They're the men that are numbered. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but there are a lot of scriptures that would suggest that the women, the 144,000 and the elect, whatever, very elect, who are attached to them, caught up to the throne, the 144,000 of men return to judge with the Messiah because they're God's army. Kind of like what we're going to see here, because the key of David was possessed by God's army, always. Because they would get, like their opposition, their enemies would besiege them on the Sabbath day, thinking that they wouldn't go to war on the Sabbath day, but they actually had the key of David, so they could war on the Sabbath. And you've got Joshua 6, Joshua and the men of war. See, Joshua is Yeshua, the men of war is 144,000. The march around Jericho for 6 days. On the 7th day, the march around 7 days. So within a 7-day period, there has to be a Sabbath. Maybe they even began on the Sabbath and ended on the Sabbath. So that's 2 Sabbath days. How would they be allowed to do that? Because they are blameless on the Sabbath when they have the key of David. So that being said, let's do Matthew 12. At that time, Yeshua went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were hungry and began to pluck the ears of corn to eat it. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. But he said unto them, Have you not read what David did when he was hungry, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of God, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Or have you not read in the law, how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? Keyword blameless. But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this means, I will have mercy and not sacrifice. Crucial. Whenever the Messiah says, go and learn this, have you not read this, as it is written, go and listen to what he's reading, because he's bringing light to it. Because when you go and read it, you'll realize, oh my goodness, now I understand it, because the Messiah is like drawn this other connection to it. If you had known what this meaneth, Pharisees, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue. The Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. And you've got the Christians that think that that means that the Sabbath is done away with. No. He had the key of David. He is the Lord of the Sabbath. That means the Sabbath is still in place. He's the Lord of it. He had the key of David, so he was blameless on the Sabbath, and then he rose on the Sabbath day. That doesn't mean the Sabbath is now obsolete. It's quite the opposite. It means that if you went and learned what mercy and sacrifice truly meant, mercy not sacrifice truly meant, you would be able to receive things like the key of David. Because he's basically grilling the Pharisees, saying, this is in your law. He prefers mercy and not sacrifice. What are they doing? They're focusing on tithes rather than loving their neighbor. They're not rebuking sin. They're not going to find their brothers and sisters. They're not judging righteous judgment. But what are they doing instead? They're focusing on tithes. Who does this sound like? It's the pastors in the apostate churches now. They're doing the exact same thing. They think people keeping the Sabbath are the Pharisees. Wrong. They are the Pharisees. They claim to know this book, and yet they just butcher it every opportunity they get. They focus on what they want to focus on. They go to the letter in some places and they do away with other parts. It's like, if they had have known what I prefer mercy and not sacrifice meant, they wouldn't be condemning the guiltless. Why? Because after he says that in Hosea 6, he says, he also prefers the knowledge of God, knowledge, prophecy. I prefer the knowledge of God more than burnt offerings. When you first start to know God, that means you keep his commandments. How do we know God? When we keep those commandments. Because then you receive the spirit of truth, which is the spirit of prophecy, and he teaches you all things, brings remembrance to everything Yeshua said. He brings light to dark sayings. Therefore you can understand the prophets. That's the deeper speech. So if you understand prophecy, he's going to show you things like the key of David. But the Pharisees couldn't see the key of David. They were like, oh, you're breaking the Sabbath. Yeshua is like, not so. We have the key of David. You're condemning the guiltless. They are guiltless, blameless. What other words is used? I think it's guilt. Yeah, primarily guiltless and blameless. Profaning the Sabbath. They literally can't profane the Sabbath with the key of David. But you should never ever profane. Never ever use the key of David. Yeah. How do you do? How did you do? I'm gonna stay here and do this video, baby. I have to stay here and do this video. Oh, Dodo. Let someone have this one. Go on. No, baby, I need to do this video. I know. Do you want to pretend you drink? Oh, it's cold. Oh. So, what was I saying? Never, if you're here to receive the key of David so that you can do what you want on the Sabbath day. I can't even explain how much trouble you will be in. I've known people that have done this before. Oh, it makes us sick. It literally makes us sick. You don't receive the key of David to be able to break the Sabbath. You still don't break the Sabbath. It's when you're doing the will of God to do good on the Sabbath. To go to war. It's about the army. It doesn't mean we break the Sabbath every week. It means that it's a clause in the law that means that you can do the will of God in a way that you never could before. It's just amazing. So say we've got brothers in America who go out on foot, and there was they hadn't packed any food or something. They were in a rush, whatever. And then they're going around to these churches rebuking, and then they were super hungry, so they went and they just got some food. But like the disciples, they plucked the ears of corn and ate it. They didn't pack it away. They didn't take some home. They didn't do a full weekly shop. They just got what they needed and ate what they needed. And they're not breaking the Sabbath and doing that because they're out on foot doing the will of God. Meanwhile, the Pharisees come over and say, you are breaking the Sabbath. But if they had have been fulfilling the royal law, mercy not sacrifice, if they had been rebuking and understood what that actually meant, instead of preferring sacrifice and tithe of anise and mint and cumin, then they would have received the key of David. They would have known what they were doing. They would have made the connection. But they were blind. They didn't even see the Messiah. So, well, the most important thing to do is go and learn what David did. 1 Samuel 21. I actually have the chapters on a card because I would never remember all of them. I think I remember a few of them, but it's even been a while since I've went over this, to be fair, but it's just amazing. 1 Samuel 21. You're joining us, bud. So this is what David did. How could he profane the Sabbath? How could he eat hallowed bread? It wasn't for common man. Caleb? No. You will fall on there. Then came David to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David. I need that. He was afraid at the meeting of David, and said unto him, Why are you alone, and no man with thee? And David said unto Ahimelech the priest, The king has commanded me a business, and has said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business, buddy. Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I sent thee, and what I have commanded thee. Oh my goodness, I chose the wrong drink. And what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Yeah. Now therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David, and said, There is no common bread under my hand, but there is hallowed bread. If the young men have kept themselves at least from women. That's how they were allowed to eat the hallowed bread. That is how the priests could profane the Sabbath, but were blameless. That's what the Messiah says. He added another example. You keep yourself from women. There's more details to this, though. Obviously this being for women, from your husband, or from sex. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under my hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men has kept themselves at least from women. And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days. David knew. 3 days unto the Sabbath. Since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common. Yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. So the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the shewbread that was taken from before the Lord, to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. So David was allowed to eat the bread. The priests were allowed to profane the Sabbath. But they were blameless. How were they held guiltless? Why were the Pharisees condemning the guiltless? The disciples were also guiltless, as was the Messiah. So they all were doing this sexual fast that sanctified them on the Sabbath day. So they're guiltless. They literally can't be blamed. And David even tells you these 3 days. And you're going to see in Exodus 19 that it's Thursday, Friday, Sabbath day. So that is how they were allowed to do that. Therefore, a sexual fast makes you blameless on the Sabbath. And we're going to see later it's going to connect to the key of David. Where should we go from? We'll go from verse 7 of Exodus 19. Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all of these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. This is the covenant made at Horeb, the 10 commandments, before they sinned with the golden calf, before sacrificial law was added. So when the Messiah came and shed his blood, he took us back to Horeb. We don't have to touch Sinai anymore. And if you do, you're going to be put under sacrificial law if you touch Sinai. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe you forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all of the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves that you go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever touches the mount shall surely be put to death. That's touching Sinai. There shall not a hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through, whether it be man or beast, it shall not live. This is so prophetic about what the right's doing. They're touching Sinai, touching sacrificial law, totally missing the gospel that the Messiah came to end that and take us back to Horeb. So then they even mock you when you're trying to preach the true gospel of peace, which is the 10 commandments, and take away sacrificial law. They're like, oh, you think there's only 10 commandments. That is the covenant that gives you the Spirit of God if you keep it. But you're coveting other things, which is why you're even touching Sinai, so you're actually not in covenant. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people. They washed their clothes, and he said unto the people, be ready against the third day. Come not at your wives. 3-day sexual fast. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning, the day dawning. In Revelation 3, you've got the key of David. You've got, right? There's prophecies within Revelation that are for who the book of Revelation is written to. Should we just quickly... The revelation of Yeshua the Messiah, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants. Yeah. Things which must shortly come to pass, and he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John, who bare record of the word of God and of the testimony of Yeshua and all of the things that he saw. Blessed is he that reads, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. The things which are written therein, key of David, white stone, day dawning, hidden manna. This is the strong meat for the servants that the servants are going to digest. So, you're going to see a lot of the times when the key of David is referenced, this sexual fast that sanctifies God's men and women, it sanctifies them. But then you're going to always see that there's a day dawning reference as well. It's like they're always connected. It's pretty amazing. Like in Joshua 6, actually, they march around Jericho for 6 days. On the 7th day, it says when the day dawned, they went and did it again on the 7th day. And it's just the day... Peter said it perfectly. 2 Peter 1:19. there is a more sure word of prophecy that the day will dawn in the hearts of the servants. Because in Revelation 2:28, he says that he's going to the Messiah says, I'm going to give the day dawning to the servants. He that hath an ear, let him hear. It's the same thing with the key of David. It's not by commandment, it's by permission, because it's a blessing. It's supposed to be, it's a promise to the servants that nail themselves to the door. The door is Yeshua in John 10. We're going to go into that more. Yeah, I think we've done as much as we need to in that. So yeah, sanctify yourselves these 3 days unto the Sabbath. So that's how come you're blameless on the Sabbath. They didn't profane the Sabbath day. The priests don't profane the Sabbath day because they have the key of David, because they keep themselves from women for 3 days unto the Sabbath. So then later on you're gonna see how this is the idiom, the key of David from Revelation 3, and it's the connector of the prophecies. It is the name of the sexual fast. Because the Bible's written in idioms. David is the Messiah, is like a prototype of the Messiah. So it's the key of Yeshua, really. But then David received it. And what does David say in the Psalms? I know the law in God's testimonies better than all of his teachers. He was rejoicing. Because David had a heart after God's own heart. And God showed him all of these mysteries. And it's amazing. 1 Corinthians 7, I guess. We'll go there next. See Paul teach it. I love how this is written. 1 Corinthians. So, we'll go from the beginning. Now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife has not power of her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband has not power of his own body, but the wife. We're talking about sex. Defraud you not the other, one the other, except it be with consent for a time. That time is the 3 days unto the Sabbath. But it has to be consensual. So now we're even getting into like the sons, like 1 Peter 3, heirs to the grace of life. You and your husband, if you're both in covenant, you are heirs to the conviction of life together. Joint heirs. Even we're talking about like the kings and queens even. So if you are both in covenant and you consent, you both see the key of David and you consent to it and you agree upon it, what a blessing. It is just such a blessing. It's amazing. But if you're in the position where you are married, but they don't see the key of David, or they don't want to do it, you can't defraud them. You can't just say, no, we're going to fast from sex 3 days until the Sabbath every week. Like Paul's saying, you can't do that, because a husband and a wife should come together in consent to do that, because usually we shouldn't defraud each other from sex. There should be good open communication there. That's a healthy marriage, to be able to because you're helping each other. You're avoiding fornication. Think about how many problems come from that. This is a totally different topic, and also marriage is sex. Paul even goes on to say that if you marry your virgin, if you're burning in lust for your virgin, just marry. You're not in sin. What does marry mean? Because obviously if they were getting... So the church says, oh, you can't have sex before marriage. Well, what if I told you that sex, with the intention of commitment, it is marriage before God? That's why Paul's saying, to avoid fornication, have one person just to live with, to be in covenant with, to dwell with, to be married to. It doesn't matter if you've got the papers signed. What matters is that you're committing together and you're having sex together. That is not fornication. Just because you haven't went to a church and signed some papers, that doesn't mean you're fornicating. Don't listen to the church. And it even says, actually, I think it's somewhere in Timothy, Paul prophesies that these wicked people are going to be forbidden to marry. They're forbidden you to have sex with someone that you are committed to, because you're not married in a church with a signed paper. It's terrible. It was a stumbling block to me and my husband as well. We could have just been together the whole time, but we were trying to abstain from sex, even though we had already been having sex. So then we were like, okay, well, we'll stop having sex. And we thought we were in sin, and like it was terrible. When really God was just like, you're already married. You've declared it, like, you're together. Defraud you not one the other, except it be with consent for a time. So you both have to be in agreement, consenting to fast, which is the sexual fast, because that's what it means to defraud one another, to not give sex to each other. To give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and to come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. For I speak this by permission, not by commandment. So he's not saying that this is a commandment. You have to not have sex 3 days unto the Sabbath every week. If you don't see that, like, this isn't a commandment. This is a blessing. You should, when you hear this, you should want this. Yeah. But then come together again on Sunday morning so that Satan doesn't tempt you for your incontinency. Revelation 3. Let's see where it's called the Key of David. Philadelphia. So, Revelation 3, verse 7. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, These things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David. This is the Messiah. He that opens and no man shuts. He opens and shuts the gates to the kingdom. And no man opens. And shuts and no man opens. I know your works. Behold, I have set before you an open door. He's opened the door. And no man can shut it. For you have a little strength. We're going to see this in Ezra 9:8. So remember that. He has given us a little strength. And you have kept my word. The word of his patience is the prophecies in the book. The word of his patience is, it's enduring. The patience of the saints. The royal law, waiting for the meat and due season. Watch and pray, watch and wait. It means if you fulfill the royal law, he is not going to let you go hungry. He will give you the meat and due season and let you know what's going on. He's going to tell you prophecy as each season approaches. It's like he never leaves you in the dark. So that's who is going to receive the key of David. But remember, it is the Messiah of the key of David, but others can receive it. You saw the disciples. It is this sexual fast, but there's more connecting scriptures that's going to show you that it is the sexual fast is the key of David, and therefore it's given to the servants, the men of God, the men of war, the maid servants. It's amazing. I know your works. I've set before you an open door, and no man can shut it. For you have a little strength, and have kept my word, and have not denied my name. John 17, he's going to manifest the Father's name unto the servants in John 17. Yeshua came in his Father's name. His name isn't Jesus. The Father's name isn't Zeus. It's Yeshua and Jehovah. We're not going to get caught up on pronunciation, but we know the meaning. We know the prophecies of his name being changed for Baal. So therefore we know that Jesus is the name of Baal. Hosea 2. God is going to take the name of Baal out of the mouths of those in the church. Because there's an ignorant remnant in the church. They're going to be put into the wilderness for the second Exodus. They were truly ignorant because people wouldn't go and find them. And they've still got the name of Baal in their lips. What name were they using in church? Jesus. They weren't literally praying to Baal. They weren't literally using the name Baal in church, in their Methodist church. Oh, in the name of Baal, amen. No. They were praying in the name of Jesus. They are praying in the name of Jesus. The first fruits take the name of Baal out of their lips now. Or rather, God does it for them. He shows them. that it's the name of Baal, they stop using the name of Baal. But these lost sheep still don't, they're still ignorant. But nevertheless, that's how you know that the name of Baal is Jesus, because Hosea 2 tells you. They're still using the name of Baal. So it's not literally the name of Baal. I just wish people would get that, because John 5:42 and 43, but the people who don't get it don't keep the commandments. John 5:42 and 43. I know you that you don't keep the 10 commandments because you are going to, because you receive him that's going to come in his own name. But you don't receive Yeshua, even though he comes in his Father's name. But it's all because you either never kept or stopped keeping the 10 commandments. My phone's on 10%. We've got quite a lot to go. These are just the characteristics of who's going to get the key of David. It's the servant, Jacob my servant, maid servant, manservant, and have not denied my name. Oh, I need to keep going. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because you have kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. What's the hour of temptation? Who is saved out of the time of temptation? Jacob's trouble, the time of trouble. All these idioms. Jacob, Jeremiah 30. It's this dark day, alas, the day of the Lord is here. It's the time of Jacob's trouble. But he, Jacob, is saved out of it. He's called up to the throne. They escape it because they're the first fruits. They did the work now. Yeah. Do the work now, women. If you can hear this, do the work now. So those that are serving and doing the royal law, even though they're hated for it, they're keeping the word of his patience. They're going to be kept from the hour of temptation. This is which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold fast that which you have, that no man takes thy crown. So these people have a crown. They're kings, queens. Him that overcomes will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. He shall no more go out of the kingdom. It's amazing, actually. You still see new things as well. It's like it gets drilled in even more the more you review the same scriptures. He shall go no more out. Well, that's just telling you that the servants are going to have the key of David, because at the beginning, the Messiah opens the door and closes the door. So it's up to him. But the servants go in and out as well, because they're nailed to the Messiah. We're going to see this. The servants nail themselves to the door, which is the gate. I am the door, John 10. They nail themselves to the Messiah. So then as he opens and closes the door, they can go in and out, get sheep, and bring them back in. This is John 10. So the key of David is this opening. The Messiah has the key of David. He opens and shuts the door. So he that overcomes shall go no more out. It's just amazing. That is amazing. I hope you can hear that. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem, the 144,000, the servants. Which comes down out of heaven from my God. Because when the Messiah comes back, he returns with his prize. His prize is his people. It's New Jerusalem, the 144,000. That's the kingdom coming. Which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. Isaiah 22, because I really want to get into the nail, because the nail is just, it nails the coffin closed. Isaiah 22, I think it's from 22. Well, no, from 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will call my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with thy robe, and strengthen him with thy girdle. And I will commit thy government into his hand, and he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and to the house of Judah. And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open. This is the Messiah. And I will fasten him as a nail in a sure place, and he shall be for a glorious throne to his father's house. Right. Do I need to go any further? I think that's all I need to do, because we need to go to Deuteronomy 15. So, the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open and none shall shut, and he shall shut and none shall open. And I will fasten him as a nail in a sure place, and he shall be for a glorious throne to his father's house. So he's going to be fastened as a nail in a sure place. Where's this phrase coming from? It's talking about the servants in Deuteronomy 15. So when the Hebrew servants would serve, when they would come to the end of 7 years, they were allowed to be released. But by choice, some servants wouldn't be released because they wanted to be in bonds to their master. They wanted to serve. So this is what would happen to them. From verse 12, and if your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from thee. And when you send him out free from thee, you shall not let him go away empty. You shall furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God has blessed thee, you shall give unto him. And you shall remember that you were a bondman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore I command you this thing today. It shall be, if he says to thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loves you and your house, because he is well with you, then you shall take an awl, a nail, and thrust it through his ear unto the door. Who is the door? Yeshua. The servant, John 10 tells you that Yeshua is the gate, he's the door. So the servant, by choice, is nailed to the door, to Yeshua. This is literally so incredible. Thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservants, you shall do likewise. It shall not seem hard unto thee when you send him away free from thee, for he has been worth a double hired servant to thee in serving thee 6 years, and the Lord thy God shall bless you in all you do. That is just amazing, isn't it? The servants by choice want to serve forever because they want to be in bonds. So they have their ear nailed to the door. The door is Yeshua, the gate, aka the gate to the kingdom. They stand in the gate and rebuke the sin, and they go in and out of the gate to bring sheep in and kick the wolves out, bring the sheep in. They're in and out, in and out. Like, can you hear that? It's just incredible. So the servants are nailed to the Messiah, who has the key of David. Then they can have the key of David too, because they're allowed to go in and out of the kingdom and do the will of God even on the Sabbath day and be blameless. Ezra 9:8. This is the best part. Although I'm gonna struggle to find Ezra on it. My throat's so dry. Ezra 9:8. Listen to this idiom. Remember what we've just read. And now for a little space, grace, conviction, God's spirit of conviction, has been showed from the Lord our God to leave us a remnant to escape the hour of temptation in Revelation 3, the key of David, and to give us a nail in his holy place. In Isaiah 22, it was talking about the nail in the sure place. Why has it become a holy place? Because when the servant is nailed to the door, it becomes holy because he's sanctified by the key of David, given by the Messiah that he's nailed to. Incredible. That is incredible. to leave us a remnant to escape, and to give us a nail in his holy place, that our God may lighten our eyes and give us a little reviving, a little strength. Revelation 3, Philadelphia. Little reviving, they kept the word of his patience, they escaped the hour of temptation. All of this is in Ezra 9:8. I'm literally sweating right now. For we were bondmen. And I feel like this is just a good video, actually. Because I feel like I know that the people that are going to hear this, I mean, some people, probably a lot of people are going to watch this and not receive it, but like, I'm doing this with the intention of finding the people that actually want this and are going to be able to hear this, so that if anyone ever asks us about it, if I mention it, I can send them this video. So it feels like a bit of a lighter video, really, because it's just such amazing meat, and like, I love being able to like try and explain this stuff. Because this is meat. I mean, like, look at all these connections. And this is only the foundation. This is only like the definitive verses where it's like, it's showing you the servanthood, the nail, the idiom, the key of David being the sexual fast, sanctification, virgins. My favorite is Matthew 19 about the eunuchs. Given us a little reviving, a little strength in our bondage, bondservant. For we were bondmen. Yet our God has not forsaken us in our bondage, but has extended mercy unto us in the sight of the king of Persia, to give us a reviving, and to set up the house of our God, to be able to build the kingdom, to go in and out, to find other people to build the kingdom. That's what the key of David's for. It's to do the will of God and to be blameless in doing so, even on the Sabbath day. Like, really think about that, like going to spiritual war on the Sabbath day, whereas like in the Old Testament they were going to physical war. And then the time is coming where the 144,000 are going to go to to physical war. So I wonder if, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, I was just thinking, if they go to war on the Sabbath day, like, that has something to do with them being called to the throne, or when they return to judge. But they all have the key of David, so they're not breaking the Sabbath day, like, obviously. It's cool. It's really cool. John 10, he's the gate. Joshua 6, I talked about that a bit at the beginning. 2 Samuel 11, this is a great one as well. If I can find it. Oh, there's some great idioms in this one as well. 2 Samuel 11. So, David sees Bathsheba. She's Uriah the Hittite's wife. He sees her washing. He calls his servant to go and get her so that they can have sex. They end up having sex. She conceives. And she turns out, yeah, she conceives. She tells David. David then tries to get Uriah. He keeps trying to get Uriah to go home to his wife, to have sex with her, so that it can seem like it's his baby. And then eventually has him killed. But and then comes the Psalms when David repents. But the main point is listen out for what Uriah says to counter David trying to get him to go home and sleep with his wife. And David sent to Joab, saying, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent Uriah to David. And when Uriah was come unto him, David demanded him how Joab did, and how the people did, and how the war prospered. And David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." And Uriah departed out of the king's house, and there followed him a mess of meat from the king. But Uriah slept at the door. Yeshua is the door. He slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord. Are you hearing this? He slept at the door of the king's house. He slept at the door of the kingdom. Yeshua is the gate. He was sleeping at the gate of the kingdom with the servants, waiting to go to war. It's like, what? And went not down to his house. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down to his house, David said unto Uriah, Came you not from your journey? Why then did you not go down unto your house? And Uriah said to David, The ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open fields. Shall I then go into my own house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? To eat and to drink with the drunken, there's another idiom. Isaiah 28 and Matthew 24. They're going to return to eat and drink with the drunkards of Ephraim and stop watching. Another idiom for watching is going in and out to, is standing in the gate, rebuking in the gate. It's actually too much to even explain. They're standing in the gate, nailed to the gate, rebuking in the gate, letting people in and out of the kingdom. That's being a watchman. That's a servant. They're all idioms. It's the same thing. They're just like, oh my goodness. Shall I then go into my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? As you live. Because why lie with his wife? How is he going to lie with his wife if he needs to war on the Sabbath day? David does this 3 times in a row, trying to get him to go home to his wife. I will not do this thing. As you live and as my soul lives, as you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing. And David said to Uriah, Tarry here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart. So Uriah abode in Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his lord. But he went not down to his house. So he even got drunk, and he still didn't go back to his house. And then he ends up having Uriah killed because he didn't go home to sleep with his wife. So he was like, well, I'll have to kill him then. But Uriah had the key of David. His men needed him. He was waiting in the gate. He was standing in the gate with his fellow servants. He was on watch. And he needed to go to war, so he can't go home and sleep with his wife. Yeah, I think we'll end with Matthew 19. Because it's just amazing. We'll go from verse 9. No. Verse 10. His disciples say unto him, If the case of the man be so with his wife, it is not good to marry. But he said unto them, the Messiah says unto them, All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. He's about to tell you the saying. So he's saying what Paul said, I teach this by permission, not by commandment. Not everyone's going to receive what the Messiah is about to say about these eunuchs. Only the eunuchs are going to, only the ones that make themselves eunuchs will be able to receive it. But he said unto them, All men cannot receive this saying, save they to whom it is given. It is given by the Messiah, who has the key of David. For there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. How do you make yourself a eunuch for the kingdom of heaven's sake? What's the kingdom of heaven? The 144,000, New Jerusalem. How do you make yourself a eunuch? You keep yourself from women for 3 days. 3 days, you make yourself a eunuch for 3 days unto the Sabbath. You abstain from marriage, sex. You make yourself a eunuch for the kingdom of heaven's sake so that you can go and war on the Sabbath day. Amazing. Amazing. You've been so patient, baby. And I just want to end with this one, actually, Revelation 14. 14:4. So, wait. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, the watchmen. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne, the new song of Moses, Deuteronomy 32. They're preaching against the church. Yeah, I'm literally nearly done, buddy. As the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. Hey, we did this yesterday as well. It's like you know that I'm nearly finished. Right. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth, that escaped the hour of temptation. These are they which were not defiled with women. They didn't defile themselves with women. They kept themselves from women these 3 days. For they are virgins. They're virgins for 3 days of the week. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and unto the Lamb. They're redeemed from the earth. They're the first fruits called to the throne. They return to judge with the Messiah. They fulfill the royal law. They watch. They're watchmen. They're servants. They're maidservants. They give their life to do so. They have the key of David. And they don't, they hold fast to that which they have. They don't deny the words of the prophecies of Revelation. If you take away from the prophecies in Revelation, like the key of David, your name gets blotted out of the book of life. That's not a joke. So if you add to the book of Revelation, the plagues get added to you. You go into tribulation. If you add the feasts onto people, you're going into tribulation. They can't do them right now. If you take away the key of David from people, your name gets blotted out of the book of life. That means you were written in the book of life, and now you've been blotted out. Don't do it. In their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault, blameless, guiltless, like in Matthew 12, before the throne of God. Amen. That's amazing.